So we've seen that R can do some basic arithmetic calculations such as addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. We will often want to store the results of these calculations and use them for later. It's not particularly helpful to go into R and calculate a bunch of arithmetic calculations. What we really want to do is try and automate the process. And in order to automate the process, what we'd rather do is store some of the results of the calculations to use them later. Now for this, we can work with what's called basic objects. So in R, an object has a name and it has content. So we can freely choose the name of an object given certain rules. So they have to start with either a small or a capital letter and include only letters, numbers, or some sort of special characters such as a period or an underscore. One thing we have to remember is that R is case sensitive, so there is a difference between a capital and a lowercase letter. So the content of an object is assigned using what's called a gets symbol. And a get symbol looks like this. So we type it using a less than sign and then a dash. We can think about gets as being similar to an equal sign. Now we don't use here an equal sign because in computer code an equal sign can mean something different, which we'll talk about a little bit later. So in order to assign content to an object, we're going to use the gets character, which is the less than and then the minus combined. So as an example, what we can do is we can assign the number 5 to an object and we can call the object x. And what that looks like is we'll type the letter x, we'll use the gets symbol, and then we'll use the number 5. I'll hit return, and then we'll notice if I come up here and click on the environment, we'll see that the value x has been assigned the number 5. So what that means is if I just type x and then I hit return, it'll return the value 5, which tells us that the number 5 has been assigned to the object named x. So from now on, we can use x in our calculations. So for example, we could say x plus 5, and that'll give us the result of 10. So the new object x is created, it has the value 5, and if we add x plus 5, it'll give us the result of 10. So as another example, let's store the value 2 into an object, and we'll call the object y. So we will type the object I gets 2. And the way that's read out loud is y gets 2. I'll hit return, and then we'll notice up here in the environment that the value 2 has been assigned to y. If I just type y, it'll return the value 2. So now we could do things like x plus y. Return the value 7. Now what we can do is if we have a lot of objects going and we lose track of what's been assigned to what objects, we can always look up here in the global environment and it'll tell us the values. Another thing that we can do is we can use the ls function. So we can type ls with the parentheses, and all I did was I typed the open parenthesis and then R knows to also type a close parenthesis. If I hit return, it'll tell us all of the objects that are stored in our working memory. So here we have x and we have y that's stored in our working memory. Now another thing that we can do is if we want to remove any of these values, we can use the rm function. So we can type rm, we can use the open parentheses. Now if we want to remove the object, we can just type x. We can hit return, and we'll notice that the value x has been removed from working memory. So no longer is the value 5 stored to the object x. We can also do the same thing one more time. If we want to remove the value 2 from y, we can use the rm function. And we can use an open parenthesis, and then we could just type in object y. We'll hit return, and then that's been removed. So the terminology here is that rm is what's called a function. And inside every function is an argument. So the function that we called was rm, and then the argument that we put in was the object y. So the rm function removes objects from the working memory, and then the argument that we put in is whatever object we want to remove.